Without a doubt, I have a lip gloss. I probably also have a telly tie, which is it's kind of like the modern day scrunchie. And what I love about a telly tie is that, and this episode is not brought to you by telly ties, although it could be in the future. Telly ties are great because they look like the old school rotary phone cords. So they give me that pop of nostalgia. They come in lots of different colors, and it's great for throwing your hair up in a bun. They do get stretched out. But what I love about them is when you put them in hot water, they kind of shrink back to their original shape. And I feel like that's very metaphoric with events, right? Mm-hmm. Events are gonna stretch you out. Yeah. And it's that getting back in the hot water, which is usually dead center right before an event or in the middle of the event. It's gonna bring you back, and it's actually good for you. It's like those, people sometimes think that stress is a bad thing. Not all stress is a bad thing. There's a lot of good stress that happens that makes you even better at your A game, or in this case, I would say E game with events. And so I would definitely have, mom jokes for days, but I would definitely have my telly tie. I would have at least one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just want to say, for people who might not know Elise, this sounds like we scripted this part of the conversation because she just flew in with this analogy. But as somebody who knows her very well, she did not script that. So the quick thinking and the cheese is just authentic.
It's just authentic. It's an authentic gift. Welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we share stories and strategies to turn any event or life moment into something unforgettable.
Events are wild, and the people who work in them are some of the most resilient humans on Earth. If you know, you know.
So come with us behind the curtain for a look at their most memorable experiences.
As they say, the show must go on, so let's get on with the show.
Welcome to Beats Working, where we're winning the game of events. I am Elise Bryson, one of your co-hosts today, and I am so excited to introduce to you our next guest, Carrie Nicole May. She is a nurse practitioner specializing in emergency and hospitalist medicine, as well as a professional recovery coach. She is the founder of Chicago AF, which is a nonprofit fostering alcohol-free connections in the Chicago metro area. She also has founded Brave, a boutique and adventure recovery coaching practice. She is passionate about creating off-grid experiences for individuals in sobriety, and Carrie combines her medical background and coaching expertise to inspire meaningful transformations. And I have had a front row seat to watching Carrie grow these meaningful transformations digitally since we met on the internet back in 2021, 2022, when you were earlier on in your Chicago AF event days. And what I think is so ironic, or not ironic at all, is that you're a nurse by day and an event planner by night, because in both cases, those roles are putting out emergencies, as we know, and putting them out in a way that makes everybody around them feel calm, that there actually isn't an emergency happening. Because in both cases, you want the people affected to be having a good experience, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that that's true, that your days in nursing made you really well equipped to have days in event planning?
Definitely.
Well, Libby, I know you have some thoughts on this, Libby, as being more of the event planner of the two of us. And you are the one that you're like a duck. Like, you just look like you're smooth sailing across the pond, but I know those little web feet are just going as fast as they can underwater.
That's what Dixie Duncan told to me very early in my event career. She was just this tornado of a coworker we had. She's amazing, but she spiraled out to my desk one day, and I don't even know what I was saying or what I was talking about, but she said, you just have to be like a duck. Just be super calm above the water, and underneath your feet are just like going like this, like this, like this. For those who can't see me, I'm paddling my hands like a crazy duck. That's kind of what I feel like, honestly, sometimes. But that phrase really stuck with me and it's always something I think about when I'm, whether I'm regular planning or in the midst of a crazy, hair on fire situation at an event. It's like a mantra almost. Carrie, do you have a mantra that you use to get through nursing days and event days?
I don't know if I could think of a mantra offhand, but I think it is just so cool because I've never really thought about the parallel between the two of what I do by day and then what I do with my free time. But I really enjoy it. And for some reason, I don't know, it's not that I wanted to get into event planning. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. And you're right with like the analogy of the duck with the webbed feet, because there's so much underneath the water that nobody has any idea is going on ever, unless you share it with them. And most people don't ask. So you're really not talking. Yeah, I always really strive to stay calm, cool, and collected, like what you see up on top of the water, to pull it off, like both at work and with the events. So
nursing and events both can give you really long hours. I mean, the nurses that I know work 12-hour shifts, and the event planners I know also work 12-hour shifts. So how do you keep your energy going when you are in the middle of an event, or when you're before an event or after an event even? How do you keep yourself going? And are they the same things that you use in your daytime work?
Yeah, I like that question a lot. So it's interesting, when I first started hosting retreats, and all of the retreats I've done 7 retreats to date, all sobriety retreats for women so far. They've all been off grid. So I've always been going to a place where I have absolutely no idea where I am. I am geographically challenged from birth. I mean, I don't know how I got anywhere before the GPS. My dad is an engineer and he's brilliant. He also is geographically challenged, so I know exactly where I get it from. But it was interesting. So I knew from the very beginning that I needed to protect my peace before the event starts. So at the very first time I did a retreat, I knew I needed to get out there early. I didn't know how early I needed to get out there. The first retreat, I just got there like one night early. Now I know I need 2 nights. And the girl that was helping me, I knew she kind of wanted to do some plans with other people. And I just was very clear. And so, it's sometimes a little hard for me to like say what I want to, but I just said, I won't be joining you. I need to be by myself. I just kind of need to be quiet. I need to be by myself. I need to prep. And so I just kind of figured that out, that I just need some quiet time before this happens. And then that has served me very well with regards to like the retreat planning. And then at home with like events for the nonprofit and things like that, I'm also a really big napper, like we were laughing about before this podcast started, because I do work 12-hour shifts, and and the work doesn't totally stop when I'm done with my shift, because I have to chart a lot, like because I'm a provider, and so you have to follow up on all your notes. And so I sometimes get up early, and then I will take a nap at 10 a.m. if I need to take a nap, and then come back to it. So I use that with sobriety too. Just lots of like having rest.
I love that. That's such a good tip.
And I just want to go on the record that like napping is where it's at. Libby knows I love to nap. I love to nap.
You love a good nap.
I don't nap every day, but I nap at least 3 to 5 times a week.
Same.
You guys, like I love a nap. I love a nap.
Bless you guys. I cannot nap for the life of me, but I kind of wish I could. I just, got that motor going. Can't rest.
And I wasn't always like this, I think, but in sobriety I have been. It's a tool that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tool I learned early on.
It's something I need to learn. So thank you. Also, I do want to say I did just refer to your profession as a nurse. I do know you are a nurse practitioner. So let it be stated for the record. Carrie May is a nurse practitioner. I do know enough about her to know that. I just left off the last word.
I would love to go back before we go forward and talk about how you got started with Chicago AF, and particularly around your first No Booze cruise and how that laid the foundation for Chicago AF's momentum. So could we start there and learn a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So the No Booze cruise that I did, I got this idea from online, and I was never online before I started with Chicago AF and Brave. I truly like nothing, no social media. And so it was fun for me when I started spreading my wings in sobriety and wanted to do more, kind of watching what other people were doing. And so I saw that someone had done a No Booze cruise in England. And so up until that point, I couldn't really get a whole lot of momentum around the events I was doing. And I stole this idea or borrowed this idea from somebody else that had done it.
We don't
And
call it stealing, Carrie. It's called copying from the smartest kid in class.
There we go.
So
It's true. It's true.
it's not stealing.
That's true. So I just said to my husband, I was like, do you care if I charter a boat? I'm thinking about chartering a boat and seeing if some people want to go on a no booze cruise. They may or may not come. I'm not sure. And so he said, let's do it. And
is your husband also sober? I can't remember.
So he stopped drinking when I stopped drinking to support me.
Just
He
as a
does-
supporter.
Yep.
We love our sober allies.
Seriously,
Libby is my
it's-
sober ally, and we love our sober
Mhm.
allies.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that has been amazing. And so that was for us, that was super cool because I think that was also when like the non-alcoholic drink momentum was like booming too. So we had a lot of like the Instagrammers, like, you know, kind of running with that. And so that was great because the No Booze cruise is what I feel, because Chicago AF was going for a while. I probably was officially doing it. And when I started it in October of 2020. And I have seriously led an event each month ever since we started it. And so at that point, it had been running for almost a year. And, you know, and then that really put us on the map. And so I was just really, and it sold out and it was great. And then it kind of caught the attention from somebody in New York that said, hey, would you like to meet with me? I went, what are you doing? Like, what is going on here? And so I said, yes, I want to meet, you know, of course I want to, I'll tell you what's going on. Like, I'm trying to create some things to do without drinking and have fun and have like the most fun ever. So I don't know, I still like was so grateful that happened and that people started recognizing that, hey, there's a group of people and what are these people doing? Like, and it's still, I still feel like that is like kind of how we got our momentum.
And how are they having fun without the booze? Right.
Exactly.
Turns out you can have fun without the booze. Turns out.
Totally.
Which Libby has known. Libby and I have done events together for decades, right? And it was always a point of contention with me that at other events, not the ones we would do, because Libby was always really thoughtful about her menu planning. But so many events don't even consider the non-drinker,
right?
Other than here's some water, here's some coffee, or, you know, drink one of our mixers. I mean, that's changing now. We're seeing it change. It's changed significantly in the last 5 years. But prior to the pandemic, it was more common than not that the non-drinker was just not considered at events.
Absolutely.
And so to go and do an event that's entirely non-drinking is actually a really bold move.
Yep. And it was so great too. I mean, we had a bartender, you know, serving a complete non-alcoholic bar, dancing, the music pumping, you know, and I was just looking around and I was like, yep, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted to do. And so it's been really cool to see like what has followed like from that and just being able to then get some more people to buy into the fact. And you know, and there was a girl that went on that No Booze cruise that's still sober today from that, you know, from attending that event. Like she just went with a friend and then was just and truly gave it up. Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's really cool. I did not know that story. That's very cool. Yeah, that's very cool. Okay, Carrie, so you talked about that event. So, you know, every event has a start, middle, and end. And so what do you do in the middle? Like, how do you keep the energy going? I mean, you said on that particular one, you had dancing and the mocktail bar, but like, how do you keep the energy buzzing at events? Pun intended, because I know they're sober. There's actually no buzz. Like, I got it. Thank you. I've got mom jokes. I got mom jokes for days.
I try to be really mindful of the fact that there is no drinking at the events and to have things that people can do with their hands and things that people can do because it's really interesting getting a group of adults that don't know each other, but they want to know each other, but they don't really know how to do it in a room.
Yeah. Without alcohol,
Without
like you take
alcohol.
away that
Right.
component.
And then you don't want to be cheesy either, because for example, like we just had a holiday party, which was I rented out, like it's a really cool coffee bar by day, and then I have rented it a couple times now, so you can rent the entire space. So again, we have a full non-alcoholic bar. And I thought, I want to have an icebreaker of some sort, but at the same time, when I'm hosting this, I'm not your recovery coach. I'm not a sponsor here. This is just a party. So I'm trying to think about what is it that I can do to like facilitate or not this group of people like getting together. And so, and like conversing with one another, having something to do. And so I did name tags. It's like not like the greatest like build up to that. But what I thought at the end of it was like, I'm going to leave it up to the people. Like, I'm not going to intervene on this one. I'm just going to see what happens. And looking around the room, everybody was talking. Everybody was like moving around, shifting, talking with like, there was about 50 people there. Lots of new people. I had no idea who they were, and it was great. And so I had food. I think food is always a really good thing to do when you're not drinking as well, and you can always like bond over food. But yeah, it's just, and those are just some of the smaller things. But some of the other events that I've done too, there are specific activities like doing like a ropes course, or I've done a casino night before and hired like the professional casino people to come. That's really fun. Like, actually playing games together. We've done, what's it called? Escape room together, where you're on teams and then you're placed with people you don't know. I just did a volunteer event, which I think is like such a good idea for people that are sober or looking to, we just packed like 85 gazillion tons of pasta for the homeless in Chicago, and we had such a good time doing it. Like, again, they're cranking the music. I don't know the person next to me, and now we're like talking about going to dinner together, and like it's just great. And then just like thinking outside the box too. I try to like really come up with like really unique things that like are intriguing to me, because I want to be entertained as well. It's like how I can't go to the same place on retreat because I've already been there, even though I know we could do totally different hikes and do different things. I want to be really excited too. So I know that when I'm coming into that event, I'm showing up as my best self too, because I'm actually super excited to attend it. That's the whole reason why I started my nonprofit, is because I wanted excitement and fun in my sobriety. Like I really wanted to have things to look forward to. So
That's such a good way to look at that. A lot of people would say, well, we'll just do the same thing. Like, well, don't need to recreate the wheel. We already know the way that it works. But I love that you pick a new place so that you, even if it means you have to get there 2 days early, or it takes you 2 days to get there because you don't have MapQuest anymore or something. But that is such a cool way to look at that.
Yep. And if we are doing an event, like with regards to the nonprofit, I have to keep in mind too, it's going to be all new people as well. So that will also be like a different experience. So, because the No Booze Cruise is really fun to do. We do keep doing that. That's like our signature thing. And we do it when they're doing the Chicago Air and Water Show. So the jets are going off ahead, up above. So it's a great summer day on the lake.
You've also done Oktoberfest at the zoo there in Chicago. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because that's had over 1,000 people, right?
Yeah. So Oktoberfest was great. And I was so excited because Lincoln Park Zoo reached out to me. So I love it when like the community reaches out to me, versus the other way around. And there was a girl, she's coming up on 10 years. And so she reached out to me, and Beth Krause is her name. She's wonderful. And just said, and she works for Lincoln Park Zoo, and just said, I would love to plan a non-alcoholic event. Would you be interested in helping me with that? And I said, absolutely. And so we started talking in January of like 2 years ago. And then, the event wasn't until September, and it was like that much planning. And so it was really interesting for me, especially because I've spent my whole life in a hospital. to see how like different, all of this in sobriety and with all these different like being with like different people and different occupations, and it's just been so cool. But yeah, Oktoberfest was great. So it was at the zoo. It had all non-alcoholic vendors, German like fair food. We had like a polka band. We had another band too. So it was like different. You could go to different aspects of the zoo and it was like a totally different scene. Lawn games. And so that's been amazing. And we just did it again. It was so well done. I love working with Lincoln Park Zoo, and we're going to do something new for this upcoming year that's going to be different. And I'm non-alcoholic as well. And it's just amazing to see people that are not necessarily sober that come to these events and how much they love the events and are grateful for them and hoping that there's more of them. And the people that work like at Lincoln Park Zoo, that are watching an Oktoberfest versus an Oktoberfest or however you want to call it, and just their perceptions too. It's incredible.
It turns out you can do anything sober.
Yes.
As it turns out, you can.
Yeah.
But I think the events you do, Carrie, are really important, not just for the sober community, but for the sober ally community, in the sense that, it is such a part of our culture and, going out and you go to dinner and drinks. And it really is such a good reinforcement for people who do consume alcohol who maybe like don't always want to,
Right.
like,
yeah.
I want to go to an event or a party or a dinner and just have Diet Coke. Like I don't always want to have a drink with it.
I think it's just kind of like a little bit refreshing, and like you didn't know
Totally.
that you needed it to be refreshed,
Totally.
It's kind of like what people say to me, like they didn't really consider not drinking, or that it was really an option or a desirable option or anything, And when I stopped drinking, I stopped hanging out with the people that drank. So that kind of meant everybody. And so I had to build that from like the ground up, because I didn't want to hang out with it. I didn't want to do that. And so with the events, like for the nonprofit too, we also do things like going to the Cubs game, and like, so we go to Wrigleyville together and go sober, like go to the event, sit in a block, and we're not going to drink alcohol, and we're going to, we're going to have fun. We're going to cheer, and like, we're going to do these things. And so I also feel like a lot of what I do is helping people practice, and I'm practicing myself. I have anxiety at baseline, so I'm practicing with my own anxiety, and I'm helping you. And it's okay if you like don't, you feel nervous, you feel silly, or you feel whatever, it doesn't matter. There's a thing called Ravinia here in Chicago, which is like this beautiful like outdoor lawn where everybody comes, and typically it's a huge drinking fest. People drink. You can bring as much alcohol as you want to, and you sit around and you listen to the thing. And like, that was one of the first things we did too, was let's go to Ravinia and not drink. So we're going to set up our own little outdoor little camp with the little tables and like, and then we're going to not drink. So yeah, it's just kind of like just creating space.
Totally. And taking away that, like, it doesn't have to feel taboo to not drink, like as a female, if I'm not drinking alcohol for years, people would say, are you pregnant or are you sick? Or, those are kind of the two only options that there could be. Like those are the only explanations. And I just think these kinds of events are so important to show people that, you don't have to feel weird about it. Or if you do feel weird, like, it's okay. Other people feel weird, and like, the more you do it, the less weird you feel. And it feels really freeing to not have that pressure on yourself, I guess, to be like, oh, I have to get a glass of wine with dinner because I don't want to like, people to think I'm having another baby.
Which is so funny to me, because nobody would be like, oh, you're gluten-free. Why are you gluten-free? Oh, you're lactose intolerant. You can't just have a little milk because this is a special whatever. Like, that only comes up with alcohol. But I think for the event planners or anybody in the event industry that's listening, to this episode, which I'm sure is all of them because we're wildly popular, it is like you do need to think about all of your guest experiences. And even if there is alcohol at an event, which is totally fine, I'm not
Right.
anti-alcohol, you're not
Right.
anti-alcohol, but make sure that there is something for everyone. And then, yes, it's absolutely okay to have events that are alcohol free. And it doesn't have to be because you're a sober person. It's
Right.
just because that event you want people to truly be in the moment. And you don't really, people think they need that first drink to like get over that social
Yep.
anxiety. But really, if you put a group together within the first hour, alcohol or no alcohol, if they're forced to talk to each other, the ice will break naturally. It will melt
will.
naturally. You don't actually need anything. You just think that you need something.
Yep.
So whether you're throwing an event for 7 people or 7,000 people, like it's just making sure to be inclusive with the experience from start to finish, I think.
Absolutely.
Carrie, how do you close out events so that people leave with that just natural buzz that they get at your events? And what do you do to help them remember that afterwards and to kind of keep it going and to hook them for the next one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I stay till the end of the event. I don't dip out early. I've heard of like some people that are like not really there for their events. Like if I'm planning something, I'll be there from way before it starts until it ends. And I think that's really important. I think that's really important for the people to see you. And like when I'm at an event, you can always talk to me. Love talking and hanging out and being part of the event. I'm not just planning the event. I want to take part in the event. So I'm always like a really very active participant. And then I also follow up with people like afterwards, with gratitude. How can we like collaborate in the future? If there's some way that I can like tag them back or, show appreciation, I make a point to like personally sit down and say thank you. So I feel like that's really important.
I love that. That's a great touch point after an event.
What do you think, Carrie, that you've learned? What's your very best event skill that if you were going to tell someone who's new to the industry, that this one skill will be the one that will get you through all those hard days or hard periods of event planning time?
I would say to trust your gut. Even if you're early, like very early, your gut is usually right. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. If you are like working with people that you're sensing a little bit of like whatever it is you're feeling, you're probably right on and it's probably not a good fit for you. I've pulled out of some certain events before they got too far along and just been, just really upfront that perhaps like, this is just not like the event for us to work together on, or like if it's like something I'm collaborating on, like with regards to my nonprofit, I just really want to make sure that it's in a space of like, we're doing this for the community. We're doing this for the greater good. We're doing this for like that our reasons for whatever it is we're doing are in alignment. And if they're not, for me, it's not worth, I don't want to be, personally want to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece of advice I would say is to be as organized as possible. Figure out what your organizational system is. If you're having a hard time with that, you need to stop what you're doing and reevaluate that until you can figure out how to do that, because that's the last thing that you want once things get into motion. You don't want to be trying to find details. Like you want to be able to pull up things like, for me, it was like switching over to like using Google more. I had never really used Google, to be honest, like before I really got into like the thick of things and like using the Drive or using however it is you're going to access your things and stay on top of everything.
Do you use a clipboard, Carrie?
No. Should I?
Well, Libby is very pro clipboard.
Yep.
You have to
I love a good clipboard. I like the ones that have you can open it and then you can put stuff inside. So they're not super thin. They're like an inch thick, but it's like a big clipboard. You can put stuff inside and clip it on front. Because, then you can put your floor plans, your timelines. I am obviously a digital person, but I love having a printed sheet in front of me.
Yes.
So
yes, I love that. Yeah. There's a particular like folder that I use for retreats that is kind of similar, where that is my folder.
That's where all of the magic lies.
Yep.
Carrie, I'm curious because Chicago AF is a nonprofit and the people that you do have that join you are volunteering their time. Sometimes, volunteers have the best intentions, but they may not have event hosting skills. How do you corral those cats? Like, how do you keep the people working the events, whether they're paid or volunteer, how do you keep them engaged and motivated? You're a
Yeah,
coach, so I would think that being a recovery coach and a nurse, this comes naturally to you.
Yeah.
But what can we learn from what you do?
Yeah, that's a really great question too. So that's hard. So one of the things with that, I will be honest, it's finding out what people's motivation is for the event. I've just had to like be really clear that do you want to do this with a nonprofit because you want to volunteer with a nonprofit, or I'm trying because I'm probably not answering your question, but this is something while we're talking about events that has really been something I've run into, is that people have their own agenda for wanting to cross promote and wanting to like do something for like a different reason that you're really not sure of at the beginning. And so that has been really difficult to just try to just keep the focus narrow and straight on the task at hand of like, this is just to promote connection and fostering, creativity, connection in alcohol-free, sober spaces. And just, I've also had to put the ownership on those people for the event. So if they want to plan something, I meet with them one-on-one. Because I'm in Chicago, it's typically over Zoom to before the event to like discuss like that you're going to be responsible for this X, Y, and Z. And are you sure that you want this? And then just kind of like little baby steps. I don't know if I'm answering it correctly, but it's been very hard. And this year has been a wonderful year of growth with regards to people really wanting to volunteer for the organization and really following through with hosting monthly things for us, which has been like really low key, awesome events for people to drop into that are just great ways to meet people. But coming up until this year, it's been very hard to find people to help.
Honestly, Carrie, that is such a brave thing to ask somebody, because as somebody who I plan many events where we are kind of starved for volunteers, and we would take anyone for any reason. We didn't want to turn anyone away. So I think that's a really brave thing to ask people that and to really vet your volunteers based on that. That's a smart move.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Turns out less is more. Turns out.
Seriously, I have learned
quality over quantity, huh?
Yeah. Well, and people don't always know what they're getting into. I've learned this a lot around content creation with the Sober Curator. People are like, I want to be a blogger. I want to write content. And they really mean it. I know they mean it. And then they get in there and they're like, oh, wow, this is actually a lot of work and a lot of research and a lot of time. I didn't realize what I was signing up for. And that can be the same with at events. Also, some people have those like instantaneous boots on the ground problem solving skills, and other people, they will be great if they are told what to do, but they can't necessarily problem solve on their own. And both kinds of people are great, but it's about having the right people in the right roles.
Absolutely. Right? Yes.
And I have learned that the hard way. And Dan Rogers, who's the owner of and founder of Work P2P, he's like, Elise, when somebody isn't in the right seat, and that's not a strength for them, like, stop trying to force that on them.
Yes.
Move them to where their strength is, right?
Yes.
Stop forcing something on them that is they're only going to ever be. That's so wise and simple, actually, but it's not always easy to do.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Carrie, we like to do a segment called It Ain't Bragging If It's True. So you've talked about the No Booze Cruise. You're obviously very proud of that. Do you have any other key milestones in your career, showcasing events that you really want to brag to us about right now? I love to listen to women brag, particularly because we don't do it enough.
I'm honestly just really grateful that the Chicago AF is still plugging along over 4 years later and is bigger than like, again, like sobriety, bigger than I ever thought was possible. Like what, like bigger than my wildest dream, you know, that people are excited about it. And I'll hear people, you know, like somebody that I just met that came to this volunteer event. And I was like, oh, how'd you find out about Chicago AF? And she's like, I heard you on an interview. And then I saw you on the news. And I thought, oh, like, okay, that's like super sweet. But, and, you know, but I was like, you know, you sometimes like, you lose sight of like the impact that you're having a little bit. And so I think like what we're doing with this nonprofit is so important, because I was so afraid when I got sober that I was going to have this dull life, because that's what I saw when I came in. That's all that really was available to me, because I couldn't meet any. I went through the steps that were available to me, and I did the things that I could do for myself. And then I was like, I really need some more. There has to be more. And so I'm really grateful to have that more. And I'm like, that's like going to make me tear up. But I'm just really grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the community. And I'm grateful for the help. And I'm really grateful that I met this person, Mary Tilson, that I'm doing retreats with. And like, that's like a whole separate thing too, but to get women out of their comfort zone and like get them on retreat. And these women that come on these retreats, like some of them I've only met on retreat. I mean, I don't know these people. They don't know me. And, you know, at the beginning, the first couple of retreats, they knew me through Chicago AF. Now they don't know me. And so they're coming and they're saying, I don't know you, but I'm going to spend X amount of money and I'm going to leave my family behind. And I'm going to come for 3 days to a place where I don't know anybody, share bedrooms with people. And after that, you know, my goal is that like you'll come home and you'll be more confident in your sobriety and own your sobriety, because it took me a long time to do that with mine, and it's doing it. And so it's just like, I'm just really grateful for it. But anyway, sorry.
So good.
Well, it's so good. And of course, I'm tearing up right alongside you here. I mean, what you're talking about here is why events exist. It's connection. It's human connection. It's heart-centered led conversations over anything, right?
Yep.
Over anything, whether you're in the woods on a hike
Yep.
or you're on a no booze cruise with jets flowing overhead. It's
Yep.
being connected to each other is all we really want,
Yep.
you know? And
Yep.
authentic, and to feel a part of and to feel included. And I love meeting new people. I also love hanging with the people that I already know are my tried and true.
Yep.
And at events, you get to be yourself, but you also get to try on different personalities and expose yourself to different personalities
Yep.
and learn so many new things if you show up to them with an open hand and a curious heart.
Yep.
I'm curious to both of you. You have a fanny pack. You're doing your events. What are the key items in your fanny pack? This is to both Libby and Carrie, but Carrie, we'll start with you.
So I will have some lip gloss in my fanny pack.
Yeah, girl.
I'll probably have my phone in my fanny pack. I used to have a piece of bread in my fanny pack. Like at my wedding, I like didn't really eat. And I literally, like, you know, your cute little wedding purse, I literally stole the bun from my wedding plate and like put it in.
Shoved it in there. Gotta eat something.
So I tend to, at events, like, because I'm a little anxious, like I don't eat as much. I eat more now than I used to, but I used to like save food for later. You go, Libby.
I've done that. I do that usually too. Actually, we recorded an episode and I talked about how I just kind of get this adrenaline rush and kind of forget to eat during the event. And then I get home and I'm so tired and starving and I have an event hangover the next day because I didn't properly fuel.
Yes. Yes.
My fanny pack has my phone. I also put one of those mobile like fast chargers for my phone in there because it will usually die. I definitely have some kind of chapstick. Usually it's this cocoa butter kind. It has a brown lid. I don't have it next to me, but it's kind of my go-to. Gum or candy.
Yeah.
I always have some kind of a treat in there, even though I don't usually end up eating it. I also, if we're talking clipboards, I also have copies of everything in my clipboard and pens. and rubber bands and a couple safety pins.
Okay.
And even like a full copy of the guest list. Because, sometimes you just need a printed guest list, even if it's, 700 people. What do you put in yours, Elise?
Well, usually at events, a lot of times at events, I'm like the MC, or I'm getting up and introducing someone that's going to be talking. So I have note cards that are usually printed or handwritten by Libby, reminding me how to phonetically pronounce things and to make sure I thank all the sponsors and whatnot. So I have note cards. I have my phone. I usually do have also another backup charger. I may have business cards if I'm on my game, although these days I know there's all kinds of things you can do with your phone and, special QR codes and stuff to make that easier. But I'm a print girl. I love a printed book, a printed magazine, and I love a printed business card. I'm not going to lie. So I probably still have that. I don't plan snacks. So I'm usually dipping into Libby's snacks, usually. I definitely have a lip gloss. Without a doubt, I have a lip gloss. I probably also have a telly tie, which is it's kind of like the modern day scrunchie.
Okay.
What I love about a telly tie is that, and this episode is not brought to you by telly ties, although it could be in the future. Telly ties are great because they look like the old school rotary phone cords. So they give me that pop of nostalgia. They come in lots of different colors, and it's great for throwing your hair up in a bun. They do get stretched out. But what I love about them is when you put them in hot water, they kind of shrink back to their original shape. And I feel like that's very metaphoric with events, right?
Mhm.
Events are gonna stretch you out.
Yeah.
And it's that getting back in the hot water, which is usually dead center right before an event or in the middle of the event. It's going to bring you back, and it's actually good for you. It's like those, people sometimes think that stress is a bad thing. Not all stress is a bad thing. There's a lot of good stress that happens that makes you even better at your A game, or in this case, I would say E game with events. And so I would definitely have, sorry, mom jokes for days, but I would definitely have my telly tie. I would have at least one.
Mhm.
I mean, I just want to say, for people who might not know Elise, this sounds like we scripted this part of the conversation because she just flew in with this analogy. But as somebody who knows her
Definitely not
very
scripted.
well, she did not script that. So the quick thinking and the cheese is just authentic.
It's just an authentic. It's an authentic gift. Well, Carrie, as we close out here, before you tell our listeners where they can find you, what events do you have lined up for 2025?
So we just got done with our NA day. It was awesome. We just had 400 guests come to this really cool venue in Chicago called Loft on Lake. We had 20 non-alcoholic vendors, just a really cool way to kick off dry January. And it was really, really fun. So as far as the nonprofit, we're definitely doing the No Booze Cruise again, like that we talked about. We have something coming up with Lincoln Park Zoo. And then I'm getting ready to go to Nepal for the Everest Base Camp trek with my friend Mary Tilson. My husband is coming. My son is coming. So
just a little jaunt up
Just
to
a little
Everest
jaunt.
Base Camp, a
Yep.
stroll.
Yep, it's been
Oh my
very fun
gosh.
buying the gear for that.
That's so awesome.
And then we just launched our second retreat for 2025, which is going to be in Moab, Utah, and that's for women that are sober or sober curious. So we're really pumped about that. We're actually going glamping. I've never glamped before, so we're
Now
going
that
to be
sounds like something I could get down with.
Right?
Yeah, I like this. Yeah.
So that's what's on tap for right now. And then I'm just going to kind of see again, like what happens. It's really fun to see who wants to collaborate. I enjoy that as much as, I don't know, all of it.
That's fun. Love that.
So if anyone is interested in any of those things, they can find me at chicagoafcommunity.com, also braverecoverycoaching.com, and I have Instagram handles for both. So.
And do you, Carrie, have any advice to someone who's been wanting to start their own kind of event series in their metro area, but maybe it's been too intimidating, or they didn't think they had the bandwidth, or
Yep.
but it kept being like coming up for them. What words of advice would you give to that person?
I would tell them to do it. And I would tell them to like understand that it's going to take a lot of time. Like it, when I first started this, I mean, I would think people would RSVP that they were coming and it would be me and one other woman. And then you're kind of like on like a blind date that you didn't know you were about to have or nobody came. But to keep doing it, because then people, if you're consistent and if you can find a way to get the word out that you're doing this, people are definitely interested in it. And so to just start small and then just see where it takes you, and I spent a lot of time, like really the first like 3 years that I was doing this, like using my creative, like, what can I do? What can I plan? And then like last year, I just decided I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just going to like, truly, I'm just going to see what happens. And a lot happened. So yeah, I would go for it no matter where you are. I talk to so many people that are in different parts of this, of the US or internationally too, that wish that they had some sort of like sober community. And if you don't have one, start one.
Love that.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, thanks for having
Carrie.
me, ladies.
So good to see you.
You'll have to come
you.
back and check in with us later and let us know how all of your party plans for 2025 ended up.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events. Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we explore what it takes to make moments unforgettable.
If you're leaving with a little more inspiration, a little more perspective, and a big side ache from all of the laughing at our funny jokes, then we've done our job.
Beats Working is a Work P2P production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platforms.
Your support helps us keep the magic going.